In every shadow, there's a story that was never meant to be told. Whispers buried beneath blood, lies, and time. Here we open the ledger, the pages inked in darkness, mystery, and truth. Welcome to the dark ledger, where the past never stays silent. In 1888, London's East End was cloaked in a thick blanket of fog, poverty, and a growing sense of fear. From this mist, a shadow emerged, a phantom who would terrorize the city, a killer with no name, known to history only as Jack the Ripper. Let's journey back to Whitechapel, a district where despair was as common as the coal smoke that choked the air. This wasn't the London of postcards. This was a labyrinth of overcrowded tenements, where families were crammed into squalid single rooms. Women, desperate to feed their children, were often forced to walk the streets, scraping by however they could. In this world, crime and disease were constant companions, lurking in every darkened alleyway. But then a new kind of terror began to stalk these streets, a horror that would not just claim lives, but would also seize the imagination of the entire world and haunt history forever. The autumn of 1888 became known as the Autumn of Terror for a reason. 5 women, now known as the Canonical Five, met a horrific end. Mary Ann Nichols, Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, and Mary Jane Kelly. Each murder was more brutal than the last. Their throats were cut with chilling precision, and their bodies were mutilated in the dead of night, often with organs surgically removed. A wave of absolute horror washed over the city. The newspapers screamed with sensational headlines, but the police, despite their best efforts, seemed utterly powerless against this phantom killer who could strike and vanish without a trace. Just when the city thought things couldn't get any more terrifying, the killer began to communicate. He wrote letters, brazenly mocking the very people trying to catch him. One infamous letter began with a chilling greeting, "Dear Boss," and was signed with a name that would become legend. Yours truly, Jack the Ripper. He taunted the police, he threatened more violence, and he played a deadly game of cat and mouse, always seeming to be one step ahead. With each letter, the fear spread faster than the murders themselves, turning the unknown killer into a citywide boogeyman. The London police were in a frantic race against time. Detectives chased shadows down every cobblestone street. Inspector Frederick Aberline of Scotland Yard led a massive investigation, assisted by men like Sir Charles Warren, the Commissioner of the Metropolitan Police. They were drowning in a sea of clues, theories, and dead ends. Hundreds of individuals were questioned and considered suspects. The list was a strange mix of local barbers, respected doctors, and even, in whispered rumors, members of the royal family. But no matter how many leads they followed, Jack the Ripper remained a ghost, a phantom who had London firmly in his grip. In the end, Jack the Ripper was never caught. The murders suddenly stopped, but the legend was just beginning. He became more than just a man. He transformed into a dark symbol of fear, anonymity, and the sinister underbelly of Victorian society. His story revealed the stark contrast between the glittering progress of the era and the brutal reality for those living in its shadows. The community of Whitechapel was forever scarred by the events of that autumn, and history would never forget the name whispered in its fog-filled alleys. We may never know his face, his true name, or what drove him to commit such unspeakable acts. But in the lingering fog of Whitechapel, his shadow remains. The story of Jack the Ripper isn't just about a serial killer. It's a chilling reflection of the darkness that can hide within any society, a darkness that was brought into the flickering gaslight over a century ago. The victims have names we must remember. The killer remains a chilling, unanswered question. The story of Jack the Ripper will forever haunt the alleys of London and the pages of history. Thanks for joining us on this journey into the past. If you found this story compelling, do not forget to like this video and subscribe to the Dark Ledger for more tales from the shadows. We'll see you next time